7.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. There's been a bizarre mass slaying in Seattle and 13 people are dead. We have a report from Jane Wallace.
It's being called the worst mass murder ever in the state of Washington. The bodies of 12 men and 1 woman were found early this morning in a Chinese social club in Seattle's International District. Each one had been bound, placed face down, and shot in the head. All were Oriental, ranging in age from the 20s to the 70s.
It's brutal, cold-blooded homicide. That's all there is to it.
We're not acquainted with gangland murders in the city of Seattle, and that it's something that we haven't come across, this type of murder.
One man survived the shooting and, wounded, struggled to the street to notify police. He is hospitalized under guard in serious condition. Next-door neighbors say they didn't notice anything.
I don't know. I didn't hear nothing.
Nothing unusual?
Nothing unusual.
We've never had anything like this down in Chinatown.
The Chinese community in this part of Seattle tends to be tight-knit. Residents say a lot goes on without police knowing. The social club, the Wami, is an institution. It's an exclusive club for illegal Chinese gambling. It's been here at least 40 years. No one gets in without being known, and there were no signs of forced entry last night. Police speculate it may have been a robbery, and the robbers didn't want any witnesses left alive.
There's no way of knowing what was there before, but very little money was found on any of the deceased.
Would you suspect that there's more to this than robbery or not?
Could be. I have no idea.
As relatives called by the coroner waited to identify the 13 bodies, police announced they'd arrested 2 suspects and are holding a third for questioning. But so far, no one has been formally charged. Jane Wallace, CBS News, Seattle.
Something called a super fund to clean up waste hardly seems a subject that would provoke a confrontation between the Congress and the White House. But for the last 2 weeks, it is a subject that has consumed Washington. Last night, apparently, there was a break in the case, and Eric Ingberg has a report.
When the congressional inquiry into the super fund to clean up toxic waste dumps was in its early unpublicized stages, the White House confidently asserted executive privilege and refused to turn loose some secret records of the Environmental Protection Agency. By last night, when administration lawyers and officials of the House pounded out a compromise, the White House had been forced to give ground by embarrassing disclosures of EPA firing, shredders, and turmoil.
We have received, as a result of this memorandum of agreement, everything that we need to conduct an objective, impartial oversight investigation of Superfund.
Under the agreement, the committee will receive heretofore secret documents with sensitive information blotted out. On demand, the committee will get to see but not keep the blotted out information. In return, the House will move toward dropping its contempt action against EPA Director Ann M. Gorsuch. She was at a Washington political dinner for conservatives last night.
Well, I'm obviously delighted that we can settle this controversy because I think that the American people are poorly served under the current conditions, which are continuous requests for documents at EPA. So I'm pleased.
President Reagan said the agreement was consistent with the doctrine of executive privilege. James Scheuer heads one of 6 House committees investigating EPA.
I consider the net result of the bottom line results of his negotiations to be a total victory for Congress.
But several hours later, Scheuer flip-flopped, voicing reservations about the agreement, saying its provisions were, quote, a charade to get Reagan off the hook. Some Democratic sources in Congress are saying the Levitas agreement won't end the hassling over EPA documents as the White House wished, because by now other committees are involved and spoiling for a fight. Eric Ingberg, CBS News, Washington.
Digel tops plainat acids. We proved it in recent laboratory tests. Cutting the yellow top off a Digel tablet illustrates the results. Without its top layer, Digel consumes as much heartburn-producing acid as plainat acids like Rolaids. What's more, Digel has the yellow top and gives you the fast gas-calming action of simethicone. Conclusion: when you want more than plain relief, Digel tops plainat acids.
Oh, let me out.
Not with that congested cough. You look drained.
I feel drained.
Take Formula 44D. You'll feel like your congested cough is being drained away.
Sure.
It's the only leading formula strong enough to relieve your cough and congestion.
It does have a strong cough suppressant.
And 2 decongestants. Well?
Thanks to Formula 44D.
Your day didn't go down the drain.
Vicks Formula 44D drains your congested cough so it won't drain you.
Reports that the U.S. aircraft carrier Nimitz has been maneuvering off the coast of Libya and Egypt triggered street demonstrations in Libya today. Yesterday, officials in Washington said that they thought the chance of hostilities between Libya and Sudan was tapering off because it appeared that a plot to overthrow the Sudanese government had been smashed. Well, today in Libya and other cities around Libya, protesters turned out to blame the United States and Egypt for increasing tension in the region. John Blackstone reports.
Most of the marchers in Tripoli's main square wore the uniform of Libya's military reserve. They shouted their support for Colonel Gaddafi and their determination to resist American military intervention. They burned pictures of Egypt's President Mubarak. Egypt's border with Libya has been patrolled by American radar aircraft this week. They protested against the voyage of the aircraft carrier Nimitz into what they consider Libyan waters. The anti-American slogan seemed well rehearsed. Libya and the United States have become experienced enemies. America has not had diplomatic representation in Libya since 1979, when the embassy in Tripoli was sacked by a mob. Libyan diplomats were expelled from Washington in 1981 amid reports Gaddafi had assassination teams in the United States. In December 1981, President Reagan told all Americans living in Libya to leave the country for their own safety. Most did, but a few Americans, mainly oil field workers, remain. The apparent buildup of Libyan forces along the borders with Chad and Sudan prompted the American activity in the region this week. Libya already occupies a thin strip of Chad's territory, and Gaddafi's troops have intervened in Chad previously. In Sudan, the military is fearful of Libya's intentions. Opponents of President Numeri's fragile government have received Libyan help in the past. The Sudanese believe another Libyan-supported coup attempt was in the making. Colonel Gaddafi himself says there's no buildup of his troops along the borders with Chad and Sudan. The American aircraft carrier Nimitz has now moved away from Libya. But the incident has once again served to raise tensions between the United States and Libya, two countries which view each other as the world's major troublemaker. John Blackstone, CBS News, Tripoli.
Earlier this week, right-wing phalangist factions in Lebanon gave up control of East Beirut to the Lebanese government. So today, U.S. Marines expanded their peacekeeping patrols into the area. Peter Sherman has that report.
A dozen Marines in 4 jeeps conducted the first new patrol, which lasted more than 3 hours. They kept contact with base to report any trouble or any sighting of illegal gunmen or booby-trapped cars. Israeli soldiers watching an Israeli supply route through East Beirut saw them pass by. But the Marines had taken precautions to ensure there would be no confrontation. The Israelis had been told in advance. UN observers were nearby, and there was no friction.
There was absolutely no contact. One of their APCs was moving, and we continued to move, and no problem at all.
The Italian and French peacekeeping contingents moved into East Beirut Wednesday, the day after the Lebanese army assumed control from the Christian phalangists, uniting all of Beirut for the first time in 8 years. The Marines plan to keep on the move in East Beirut, not set up fixed checkpoints, because they say their base at the airport is too far away from the government's new zone of control.
In order to accomplish the mission the best tactic for us is to conduct motorized and accompanying foot patrols, and that's what we're doing.
Any contribution the Marines are seen making to Lebanon is significant because it's a symbol of a commitment by the only nation that seems to have enough clout with Israel and Arab countries to mediate a withdrawal of foreign forces. Peter Sherman, CBS News, Beirut.
A big break in the OPEC price ranks today. Nigeria cut the price of its crude oil by $5.50 a barrel. That would bring it down to about $30 a barrel and match the price cuts that were made yesterday by Britain and Norway. It will also put pressure on other OPEC countries to reduce their prices.
Thank you very much.
If you're taking more pills than you'd like for minor arthritis pain, here's a rub which might just replace pills. Aspercreme. Aspercreme relieves arthritis pain because it contains salicin, a strong non-aspirin pain reliever. Aspercreme concentrates relief right where you hurt, penetrating, long-lasting relief without the side effects pills may cause, and there's no odor. Aspercreme, strong, effective relief without pills. Remarkable.
Kellogg's Special K has a brand new look just for you.
A bigger flake, a crisp-like taste, made for today. Take to the K, new Kellogg's Special K.
Introducing new improved Special K cereal. The flakes are bigger, crispier, high in protein, low in sugar, and even better part of your low-calorie Special K breakfast.
Tastes great, first rate, for your life today. Take to the K, new Kellogg's Special K.
Okay.
President Reagan has had some rocky going with some of his old conservative supporters in recent months, but he got some good news from the right today. A group of conservative activists has been holding a convention in Washington this week, and in a straw poll today, 88% said they wanted Mr. Reagan to be the Republican candidate in 1984. Jane Miller's been covering the convention this week. Here's her report.
The president joined over 1,000 of the nation's most influential conservatives last night, trying to keep the right wing of his political house in order.
Well, it's true we haven't brought about every change important to the conscience of a conservative. But we conservatives can take a great deal of honest pride in what we have achieved.
Mr. Reagan was defending his record against some right-wing dissatisfaction with his policies.
Quite frankly, when you compare Mr. Reagan's performance to what it was he promised us as a candidate, I think he simply has not lived up to his billing. The first thing that comes to mind would be taxes. This was something Mr. Reagan was clearly elected to reduce, and he has given us the largest tax increase in history.
At the conference of conservatives over the last few days, the criticism was aimed not at the president personally, but at the president's men. They're blamed for not letting Reagan be Reagan.
They do not see issues as we see them in this room. They think of us as a faction to be appeased. We've been over there to the White House. We're brought in there just like American Indians and handicapped Filipinos. And the president should be asked by all of us and by conservatives everywhere in America to fire Jim Baker and all of his officers.
Despite the grumblings, conservatives say there is still solid right-wing support for the president. A poll taken today at this conference showed 75% believe the president is doing a good or excellent job, and 88% want him to seek re-election.
He's going, in my opinion, to run again. He's going to mop up the floor with whatever unfortunate soul the Democrats managed to persuade to run against him.
A few right-wing critics are threatening to shop for a new candidate, a popular alternative, Jack Kemp. But key conservatives say come 1984, Mr. Reagan will still be their best hope for carrying out their agenda. Jane Miller, CBS News, Washington.
The first 1984 presidential primary is more than a year away, but the would-be presidents are already on the stump. AFL-CIO leaders gathered this weekend in Florida. Senators Alan Cranston and Ernest Hollings are expected to drop by. Former Vice President Walter Mondale is scheduled to formally announce his candidacy next week, as is former Florida Governor Reuben Askew. Senators Gary Hart and John Glenn are in New Hampshire today for political receptions. And as Renee Ferguson reports, a prominent black leader is now on the verge of entering the race.
I am somebody.
Jesse Jackson wants to run for president in the Democratic primaries. He has spent the last month seeking the support of America's black leaders for that proposition, including a meeting this week with Atlanta Mayor Andrew Young. They emerged speaking of a possible strategy.
When you consider 10 million registered black voters and 8 million unregistered black voters and 6 million eligible Hispanic peoples, and
that in itself would be the surest way to defeat Ronald Reagan, through massive voter registration drives.
In Chicago, with Congressman Harold Washington running for mayor, black voter registration increased by 200,000. Washington is now virtually tied in the polls for first place, a lesson not lost on black leaders. In that same race, Walter Mondale endorsed Washington's opponent, Richard Daley, while Ted Kennedy endorsed the incumbent, Jane Byrne. Jackson told an audience of Morehouse College students in Atlanta this week that he considers the endorsements a betrayal.
They are now playing the game by two sets of rules. We support them, they support them, and ain't none of them left to support us.
Former New York Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, the last black to enter the primaries, won only 2.7% of the vote in 1972. But a black candidate in 1984 would have a wider base of support, believes Congressman Walter Fauntleroy.
There are a great many people in this country now who know what they did not know in 1972. And that is, we may have come over here in different ships, but we're in the same boat now.
Jackson and Young say they see the candidacy of a black presidential contender as an extension of the civil rights movement of the 60s. An effort to put pressure on the Democratic Party, which they believe is moving in a conservative direction. Jackson says his decision on whether to run will depend on how much support he can muster from black leaders. In Atlanta this week, he clearly implied that he hopes to get that support.
This generation of black Americans, you must not only register and vote, you must break out like a plague running for governor, for Senate, and the President of the United States of America. Take it all.
Renee Ferguson, CBS News, Atlanta.
Can't breathe. Sorry, Kate. I just can't go to lunch with your Roger.
Oh, you won't miss this lunch. Roger wants to marry our Kate.
You're kidding. You're not kidding.
So give your cold a contact. You'll feel better and you'll look better for 12 hours. And you might not be so grumpy.
Contact.
Contact keeps you going, so you won't miss the good things.
Mr. Barnes, what's on your mind? Roger.
Safety seal pack, of course.
Years ago, luxury cars began a tradition that persists to this day.
And what does this do?
Why, nothing. You see, it's a symbol.
Thus was born the luxury car's preoccupation with prestige, a notion rejected by the BMW 733i. We place extraordinary engineering before self-congratulation. That's why our status symbol is under the hood, not on it.
President Reagan used his weekly radio speech today to urge Congress not to cut defense spending unless, he said, it is, quote, willing to gamble with our immediate security and pass on to future generations a legacy of neglect, end quote. The Democrats' response from Senator Robert Byrd was that defense cuts would not endanger the nation. The Army's been putting a lot of money into developing a new battle tank, but as we hear from Pentagon correspondent Bill Lynch tonight, what the Army is getting for its money may be a non-battle tank.
The M1 Abrams tank, the Army's top priority weapon and the fastest, most sophisticated tank ever made. Within a few years, the Army will have over 7,000 of them at a cost of some $20 billion. But the M1 is not ready to go to war because the Army lacks the spare parts to maintain the M1 in combat and has no plans to build an adequate stockpile at least until the 1990s. According to one senior defense official, the Army is simply taking a gamble that there won't be a war. That is evident from the Army's own figures. In a secret study obtained by CBS News, logistics experts at the Army's Training and Doctrine Command told the top brass that to stockpile spare parts for a 60-day war would cost at least $3 billion. However, the Army is budgeting only $390 million for M1 war stocks through 1988. Just 13% of what its own planners say is the minimum required. Meanwhile, the Army's M1 inventory keeps growing. In war games this week at Fort Hood, Texas, the 2nd Armored Division used about 90 M1s. It is here in the field where it receives its true test of how well it will stand up under rugged combat conditions. The rate of M1 mechanical failures has caused some alarm at the Pentagon. Last September, one Fort Hood battalion reported half its tanks out of commission after a field exercise due largely to a shortage of spare parts. This week, there were fewer breakdowns. Although one battalion had more than a dozen breakdowns over 4 days, only one of its 51 tanks had to be towed back to the motor pool. A common problem among all tanks is broken tracks. It took over 3 hours to fix PFC Willie Talaferro's tank.
Maintenance problem is a little bit rough on the maintenance.
The 60-ton tank also guzzles gas, more than 4 gallons per mile. When the gas trucks break down, tanks in the field, which carry 500 gallons, can run bone dry, as this one did 3 hours before we found it.
Volkswagen run out of gas. You just got to be careful.
The M1 not only needs more gas than the old M60 tank, it needs more fuel trucks, more ammunition trucks, more mechanics, and more expensive parts. This $600,000 test set is used to troubleshoot maintenance problems, but it's so complex and time-consuming, commanders call it a nightmare. The Army says it will cost $28 billion to keep the M1 force rolling over a 20-year life cycle, 17% more than M60 tank units. The Congressional Budget Office says the cost will be 41% higher. Others say even more. Whatever the cost, the Army says the M1's superior speed, firepower, and armor protection are essential to offset the huge Soviet advantage in numbers. The men who operate the tank agree.
It's a tank we want to go to war with the Russians with.
When it's going, it's great. There's nothing finer. I haven't heard a heck of a lot of bad-mouthing from the M1, but from my soldiers, and I really mean that.
While the Army appears to have solved some of the M1's worst mechanical problems, it remains a controversial weapon. As for the extra cost, Congress may not like it, but the program is just too far along to do much about it. Bill Lynch, CBS News, Fort Hood, Texas.
Danny Kaye is in stable condition tonight, recovering from quadruple bypass heart surgery. The 70-year-old actor-comedian underwent the 5-hour operation yesterday at a Los Angeles hospital. His doctors say he is awake and alert. A Ku Klux Klan demonstration at the Texas Capitol in Austin today touched off a clash. Hundreds of anti-Klan hecklers lined the route of the Klan's march, shouting and hurling rocks and debris. At least 10 people, including 4 policemen, were hurt. None believed seriously. Police arrested 10 people. Earlier in the day, about 1,000 people rallied to protest the Klan demonstration. Joshua Nkomo, the main opposition leader in Zimbabwe, was detained by police today just as he was about to fly to a conference in Europe. He was held for 8 hours, then released. No charges were filed, but his passport was taken away. A spokesman for the government of Robert Mugabe said that they did not want Nkomo to leave the country because of evidence linking him to an anti-government plot. 2 of his top aides are currently on trial for treason. The Zimbabwe government also today banned a Newsweek correspondent, charging him with false reporting. Holger Johnson had reported at least 500 civilians killed in anti-rebel sweeps by the Army.
Look who's discovered Sanka ground coffee. Bill Boak, expert lager.
You can't hurry a tough job like this. So I look forward to settling back with a pot of hot, freshly brewed coffee, especially since I've discovered Sanka ground coffee. Smells great. Real good. And it's 97% caffeine free. For me, that works.
Sanka brand ground decaffeinated coffee. Discover it.
When my arthritis kicks up, there's no beating deep heating.
Mentholatum Deep Heating Rub sends fingers of relief to soothe minor arthritis pain for hours.
When my hands are stiff and sore, there's no beating deep heating.
Mentholatum Deep Heating Rub sends fingers of relief to loosen the stiffness of minor arthritis pain for hours. Mentholatum Deep Heating Rub or lotion.
There's no beating deep heating.
Kellogg's Special K has gotten better, just like you.
You've hit your stride, you find your pride, and on your way you take to the K, Kellogg's Special K.
If you haven't tried high-protein, low-sugar Special K cereal lately, you're in for a treat. Bigger, crispier flakes make your low-calorie Special K breakfast taste even better.
All together, better than ever, a good time to say, take to the K, Kellogg's Special K.
Okay.
The story of actor Robert Clary could be described as art imitating life, except the subject is so tragic. It is our final story tonight, and Gary Shepard has it.
Remember me? I'm your Strudel connection. Tighten your feet!
For more than 5 years, actor Robert Clary played the role of POW Louis LeBeau in the television comedy Hogan's Heroes. Few people ever knew that Clary, who is Jewish, had real-life experience dealing with the Nazis.
They asked us to roll up our sleeves, and very quickly we were tattooed and put a number on our arm, on our left arm. and you suddenly realize what you were. That you were not a human being, that you were cattle. Not only cattle, but branded cattle.
Clary, it turns out, is one of the survivors of Hitler's concentration camps, and he is not embarrassed about showing his own tattoo to prove it. In fact, he has made more than 100 personal appearances at high schools all over the country, recalling in vivid detail for today's youth what it was like back then.
And they proceeded to knock on every door of this apartment house and said, "You have 10 minutes to take your belongings and come downstairs." 10 minutes! Screaming, yelling. 10 minutes.
It was in 1942, shortly after he posed here with his sister, that he and a dozen members of his family were taken from their Paris apartment and put on trains to Germany.
While we were traveling, we were greeted by the German youth, your age, pelting stones at us, screaming at us, spitting at us, laughing at us, calling us dirty Jew bastards. That was our welcome to Germany.
Of the 13 who left Paris, Clary was the only one from his family to survive, spending 31 months in 4 separate camps.
We go 5 rows of bunks, and we sleep like sardines on the side. We cannot move. In the morning, you wake up with corpses all around you, and you shove them on the ground. You have nothing to do with them except grab their clothes to get some more warmth.
Finally, on April 11th, 1945, he was rescued by American soldiers as the war against Germany was coming to an end. Why does he resurrect those painful memories now, so many years later?
There are some people in this world right now who call themselves revisionists, who are writing books and magazines denying what happened, denying how it happened, denying that no Jews went to the gas chambers and the ovens. And I've lost most of my family like this, in the ovens and the gas chambers, and you cannot let them tell those lies.
Robert Clary says the survivors of the Holocaust owe it to those who died to make sure the world never forgets what happened. Gary Shepard, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's the news. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News, New York. Good night.
Every day, thousands of executives are faced with having to be in 2 places at once. That's why the Bell system figured out a way to do just that. The concept of teleconferencing.
Anything's possible.
Using the most powerful communication network in the world, the Bell network, teleconferencing lets you communicate over thousands of miles.
What side?
Face to face.
What about Seattle?
They're on it.
And back to back.
Tell them the good news. See you later.
The teleconferencing concept from the Bell system, expanding your ability to communicate.
Tomorrow, CBS Sports gives you a view unlike any other in the world as they race in the 25th Daytona 500. Be a part of the action tomorrow on CBS Sports.
Thousands of oil paintings, 20